It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Liz Newman.
Hello everybody.
Unfortunately, Les is not with us this week, but he should be back next week. And
unfortunately, my ass, he's on vacation.
Well,
we're all jealous.
Yeah.
Well, I'm jealous enough for everybody else, so it's cool.
Okay. All right.
He had to recoup from the bus hitting him so many times.
Yeah. That's what it.
I don't know if they have buses where he went, and I think that might have been on purpose.
Mm-hmm. So, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, doing good.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's well, first of all, I want to take a couple moments to apologize for no episode last week. Just a lot going on everywhere.
Oh boy.
And so it just wasn't in the cards, and it was for our best interest not to do one. So apologize for that, because that was going to be our Kickstarter. So we'll probably do one here down the road, and it's going to be a bit, because we already got plans for next month, because it's October. But we'll see what we can do. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Okay, so at the risk of starting out on a downer note, I'm going to start us out on a downer note. Given when we record this and when it comes out, there will be no surprise that Hurricane Florence just happened. And it has done a lot of damage. I mean, I think at this point on Tuesday, we're still not, I guess, entirely sure about all the damage at this point. But to get real specific, I am going to shout out a fellow podcaster right now. Doug from the Who's Right podcast lives in North Carolina, or at least he did. He and his family evacuated because they're smart, and they appear to have lost their entire home, everything in it, all gone, with hints that insurance wasn't going to cover anything, or at least not much. So, and I realize that I am calling out one person out of, I'm sure, a lot of people who are in very similar situations, but Doug's the one that I've been hearing about, kind of on a personal level. So I am going to put a link in the show notes to the GoFundMe account to help Doug out. And I really hope that if you're listening to this and you have a few bucks laying around, that you can go out there and pitch it Doug's way to help him out, to help him and his family out, because that's rough, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, and I wish we could all help all of the people that are affected by such things, but sometimes we can't, and we kind of have to just do the little things that we can do. So, like I said, I will put a link in the show notes to the GoFundMe account that has been set up by other fellow podcasters to help Doug out.
Yeah, that's just been tragic seeing what we've seen so far from the devastation, and it's still early. Like you said, we're recording on Tuesday. We're still not going to see the full effects of Florence and for another day or two. But it's been bad. So yeah, if you can help out, please do.
Right. If you can't help Doug out, then, I mean, help out the Red Cross.
Definitely.
I mean, do something. Do what you can. That's all I'm going to say. Do what you can.
Thank you for doing that. That's
Yep.
Alrighty, Liz.
So for the last 2 weeks, I have, actually it's weird because it's not my comic collection I've been sorting, it's my comic paraphernalia collection I've been sorting. And
Your
actually,
comics adjacent collection.
Yep. And I'm whittling it down into half, man. I don't know. I like them, and they, stuff makes me happy, but
Wow. Okay.
time for somebody else to have the stuff to be happy,
You buying stuff makes Tom happy too, but that's not important.
Well, that's what I was saying. See, now that I'm getting rid of some of it, I can replace it with something cuter.
Right. More room for stuff.
Right. Well, my comic book store has cut back on Pops, and they've got these cute little things now called Q-Figs, and they're cute. I mean, Pops kind of reminds me of the Brat dolls of the collectible world. The big heads, little bodies. But these are actually a bit cuter, and you can see better who they are, and it's not a generic form for all of them kind of thing, So
A little bit more character too. Yep.
it is, yeah. So I like those, but I don't have any more room. So yeah, I've been working on that. And not only that, not only do I have like my personal collection inside, I have a host shed. And I'm not over exaggerating when I say a host shed full of comics and comic books, and I guess comics and comic books are the same thing. But yeah, it's a lot of comics and toys and cards and anything you can think of that you'd find at your local comic book store. I have like a host shed full of it. And
Dang.
part of that, what's the good in collecting if you can't even see it and enjoy it,
Well, that's the trick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You get to a point where it stops being collecting and it just starts being hoarding.
right.
And then you get on the TV shows.
You have to say things like, "Hi, my name is Liz. I'm a pop addict." So, yeah, I'm going to cut back on those two. And I think with my thing is I didn't stick with just things I liked. I stuck with things that I thought looked good. And so part of my collection was just getting rid of things that aren't like personal to me. Of course, Batman and Harley stuff all stays.
Oh, sure. That's a given.
Yep. My Walking Dead collection, gone.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Really?
That was a hard one, but yep, gone. See, and I used to have, I still have friends who sell toys, and they would find like the action figures that were hard to get. So I had a lot of the rare stuff. But like I said, now it'll go to a better home, and they'll appreciate it. And instead of looking at it every day going, "Why did they kill Carl?"
Ah, the truth comes out.
There's a bad memory. Yeah, but then it also feels good letting go.
Okay.
See, if I was a hoarder, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. No. Yeah, that's a big distinction to be made. Sure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Although that doesn't sound like a lot, that's been a major undertaking in itself,
Oh, I bet.
And then I'm surprised, things that I bought for like $10. I have one pop that's worth $150. How does a $12 piece of plastic go from being $12 to $150? So I guess also I got in that frame of mind, sell it. Sell it before the price drops again.
There's that, yes.
Right. But my Stan Lee ones I'm keeping for now.
For now.
For now.
till they get up to 200, and then
That's what I say. I have a feeling, not too much longer, and those will be worth a little bit more too. As horrible as that sounds, I'm sorry, Miss Lee.
There's a subtle hint there that
Well,
yeah.
They're already talking about things like his autograph now that he's quit signing. Although he did it quite a bit. I don't know. I hate to see that day. But, go.
Yep.
Patooey. I'm sorry, Mr. Lee.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So Liz will be quiet now.
There's a potential title if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Everybody be going, man, that's fake news. The only time she's quiet is when she forgets her mute button.
Okay. Unfortunately, I've got another week or two where, in this case, it was just life happenings and it was not a lot of good stuff. So, yeah, sorry. Sorry to be the downer. So it kind of started on a downer and it's going to end on a downer. But things are getting better. So hopefully I'll have something more positive to say next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll get a chance to do something fun.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. Okay. Before we get into this week's topic, I want to take a couple moments to thank the fine folks at Things from Another World for being a sponsor of the fellowship. Right now, all they're running are their evergreen deals, but these are pretty awesome deals. To find out more about it, you can go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on our sponsors tab. The deals you will see there would include 40% off comics, statues, toys, 30% off select pre-order manga titles, and 50% off Nick and Dent comics. While you're there, you'll see some links that you can click on, or you can just click on the image at the bottom of the screen for Things of Another World. I'll take you to their website and let them know that we sent you their way. And just take advantage of some of these great deals, and thank you, Things from Another World, for sponsoring the fellowship. Okay. This was... In hindsight, I don't know if I really meant for this to happen the way it is, but obviously, as I mentioned earlier, October's coming, and if you are a long-time listener to the podcast, you know October is horror month for us. We will take the month and every week will be something kind of horror or scary related, and this year will be no different. So, but with this year, we are starting a little early.
This is kind of your issue 0 for horror month.
There you go. There you go. I almost want to say teaser, but this subject matter is not really a teaser. 2018 marks the 40th anniversary of the release of one of my favorite horror films.
Arguably the granddaddy of them all.
Yep.
Certainly of what they call the slasher film.
Mm-hmm.
And I am talking about John Carpenter's Halloween. We're no strangers to this movie. We have talked about it a couple times at least on previous shows. But I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the 40th anniversary of the release of this film. And we can also talk about the upcoming sequel, which I am so excited about.
Yep.
With that said, I am going to open up the floor to whoever like to share their thoughts, because I know we're all big fans of this film. Just go right ahead.
Meh.
Maybe next week.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Good night, folks.
Go home.
Yeah, until we can strangle us individually. No, yeah, this is, I mean, I have to say, and leading this off with I don't know, I'm kind of, this may not come across as well as I want it to. I'm not the biggest slasher movie fan in the world, but this is a good movie. I'd almost argue that this is a great movie. It just does. I mean, not only have we talked about Halloween before, we talked about quite a few John Carpenter films before.
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing else, Carpenter is really good at pacing,
Mm-hmm.
which is a necessity to build suspense. And this movie does it, and it does it really well. It does the slow burn, I think, amazingly well for the type of movie that it is, for the intended end result. I mean, it just sets things up beautifully, and it takes a nice long time to do it, and it just all works out really well over the whole course of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the pacing. Yeah, you're right about being a slow burn. The pacing is just great. And the thing is, and it's something that I think is sorely lacking in today's horror, especially in this particular genre, is the building of characters. I think I've complained about this before on a prior episode. It seems like today the focus is on the kill and making the killer something memorable, and you don't necessarily particularly care about the characters.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because there needs to be something invested in all the characters, not just the one that is supposed to be the final girl, as it's known nowadays. So when they're actually killed, you're upset. You're shocked. You
feel something.
You feel something,
Whatever it is.
Yep.
There's several I have seen over the last few years. I'm 10 minutes in, if that, and I'm going, okay, I don't care about this one's going to be the survivor. This is the one who's going to be the focus, and everybody else, I don't care. Go ahead and kill them now. Get them out of the way. It's just because they there's no their own investment, and that's just kind of how things are set up nowadays, where
Right.
and
it turns into a Joe Bob Briggs thing really fast. We're like, okay, this is the body count, this is the boob count, this is blah blah blah, and this is all the weird crap that happens. Yeah. Right, and it I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a great appreciation for Joe Bob Briggs, but what he was doing was intended to be parody to an extent. He was satirizing the genre, and doing it honestly fairly early on, and fairly consistently for a long time, and doing it well, because that's kind of what the slasher film became for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and I will use the word arguably again, while it arguably comes straight from Halloween, that's not what Halloween was.
Right.
That's not what that movie was, and it was a very different thing. It got, I don't know, it went to hell in a handbasket real fast with slasher films, which is why I don't claim to be a fan of the subgenre, because that kind of thing's just not fun for me. Whereas Halloween, that's a different ballgame. That's what all of those movies should have strived to be, and they didn't. And sometimes when they did, they came up short. And
See, I grew up on these movies. It's kind of what framed me for horror movies. And even today's times, I consider this an 80s movie. I know it came out in 78. That was kind of the block of the scary movie time was in the 80s. But it's almost ruined the newer movies because, like, Thomas was saying, there's no investment in your characters, and you see it coming from a mile away, and they use the cheap tricks of the jump scares and that kind of thing, and that's different than being scared. I enjoyed a movie like Halloween because I was genuinely scared. You didn't know what was going to happen. Although once you learn the formula, if they're having sex or doing drugs, they're going to die. Which probably explains why I was able to watch these movies as a younger child, being in a religious family, But that's some of my memories is watching this with my family, and it's kind of like, why? I mean, I don't know why he would let us do that, because I think Halloween came on TV like in 81, 82.
Yeah, something like that.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
So I would have been 6,
Wow.
and I watched it. Now, it was set between the parents, and they always said, cover your eyes and that kind of thing, which, you did, but you could still see what was going on. But it's just, like I said, after watching this one, because I think I did watch Halloween before Friday the 13th, I fell in love with the whole genre. It kind of made me who I was, if that's weird to say about a movie, but it's kind of, you learned real quick you liked this. And I liked that, that, like I said, it wasn't the cheesy kind of feel that they got later on in the 80s.
Not even that much later on, really.
Right.
It happened pretty fast.
Yeah.
Again,
But
Hollywood tries to capitalize on something that they find that works,
Yeah,
Right.
I do.
and they do it poorly.
Because I think this one, for it being a horror movie, it set records as far as the most tickets sold and of that time. I'm sure things have come along since or after, but I think it kind of surprised everyone. Usually horror movies aren't number one movies, It's not family oriented, and
Right. I mean, to get some of the effect that this movie had, you basically had to go back into exploitation films to an extent. I mean, this is if nothing else, this is kind of the first, and this is why I used the word arguably before. Halloween was the first kind of mainstream movie of its kind. There had been stuff like that similar to it before, but usually that was more the grindhousey type exploitation films.
you had Hitchcock with Psycho.
That's worse suspense and all that than it is actual.
There's,
Yeah.
I kind of like to make the argument that Halloween was born from about a 2-minute scene in Psycho. The movie itself, I mean, honestly, it's a way slower burn, but
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a relationship there. I don't know how direct it is.
Well, it's kind of like someone saying, I was influenced by the Beatles. It doesn't mean that their music is going to sound like the Beatles or even remotely close to it, but it did have some kind of influence on them. Maybe, like, with me, if I hadn't seen this movie, I probably wouldn't have been a goth in high school. that whole morbid period I went through. So I could see how it was influenced.
I'd love to
but
see
not-
pictures of that, by the way.
Yeah, I would too.
I don't know if you could capture that on film. I was so white. No kidding. Baby powder was my powder.
I remember what goth looked like. I just would be curious to see it on you.
And this was like true goth, not what they're considering it today.
Oh, yeah, it's a different ballgame now. But yeah.
Oh, it is. Well, it's like someone asked me what music you listen to. And it was like, well, it used to be new wave. And they're like, isn't that like Yanni? And it's like, no.
No, that's new age. That's new age. That's different.
Jeez.
New wave was what happened when punk hit the 80s.
Yeah.
But anyway. I guess I was going to say we don't want to get sidetracked on that, but honestly, we're setting cultural groundwork here to explain why this movie was what it was. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And how it happened before the 80s hit.
Definitely made an impact on me. And like I said, even today, it takes a lot to scare me. I can't recall a good scary movie in a long time. It's been a long time.
I don't think they make them the same way anymore. They're not. They've gotten away from that formula. They've gotten away from what made Halloween work as a film, and that's not scary anymore. And so there's
because what used to be in a horror movie is everyday life, and it's not scary anymore.
I so cannot argue with that statement. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I think that some of it you become desensitized.
Yeah, and that's
in the 80s. It was like, oh my God, that was such violence, and now people are like, he'd get manslaughter. It's just, for the time, it was shocking, and I think that's what really made it work.
Right, and it was shocking until it kind of stopped being shocking, which was when they started going over the top with it to try to make it, to try to keep up, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, you can
More
only do
blood,
it for so long. Right, more gore.
More jump scare. Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, part of the deal is that it's really cheap to do a jump scare on film.
Yeah.
So you can make, horror movies, you want to break in, you want to make a cheap movie, make a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because it's real easy. All you got to do is write in a few jump scares and figure, if you can figure out a way to build any suspense at all, you've got yourself a winner.
Yeah. But just because somebody jumps doesn't mean they're scared.
Oh, I agree.
You know?
I agree wholeheartedly. But that's right. And like I said, it took maybe 10 years to get away from the idea of actually scaring people.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's so much easier just to jump them.
Yeah.
Just to do the jump scare. It's just cheaper and easier, and it works. It's not
like
the same
the latest
effect.
trailer. Yeah. The trailer for The Nun. And I think YouTube had to pull it, and it was like, okay, I have to see this. What is so scary? I have to see this. It was nothing. It was a jump scare is what it was, And even at that, I can't say I jumped. It was kind of like, oh, she's kind of cool looking, But to pull it off YouTube because people can't handle a jump scare now?
Well, to put it in the trailer is kind of ballsy to begin with. That's not something they usually do in a movie trailer, and that's probably really the problem. It's probably not that it was actually scaring people. It's just it kind of, not that there are actual rules for movie trailers, but it kind of violates the idea.
I guess. Like I said, to me it was kind of cheesy, but
I had not heard that they yanked it off YouTube, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I saw, I'm just going, okay. Kind of interesting, but nothing really what makes me gonna just rush out to see it.
And instead of showing us anything about the movie at all, you built up silence to a jump scare. To where I know there's a nun in the movie, but that's all I know,
But we already knew that because that
It's
hello
in the title.
Right. Yeah, they definitely don't make them like they used to anymore. And I think Friday the 13th actually took a lot of hints from Halloween and made it work for them too.
They took what Halloween did and basically what Mike said earlier, just okay, well, let's just make things bloodier, more shocking, more unbelievable.
Well, and they gave us a backstory. From the first Friday the 13th, you know why Jason was like he was.
Well, but
Jason barely
Kinda
appeared in the first movie, too. So.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. On a technicality, it's not even Jason in the first film.
But it was his mom going crazy because of his story. So it was kind of burned in your head that camp counselors were having sex instead of watching them, and he drowned. And that's why he killed teenagers. So, but, with Michael, it was kind of cool because he was kind of suspenseful. You didn't quite know what made him tick. Dr. Loomis did, but I think, if I remember correctly, didn't it take a couple of them for us to get his whole story out of who he was and why he hated Lori? And
Well, we don't know why he hated Lori. He just
right, and that's the deal. Is that a lot of it was more the with Myers, it's more the physical presence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, you've got with Jason, you've got a story, and there's a specific trigger for him. With Myers, you don't know, and so what they do is they silhouette him in the background, and he's there watching, and or he's menacingly walking slowly towards the camera or the target or whatever. So it's more the physical aspect of it, whereas as opposed to the crazy. I mean, there's crazy there, but that's not
it's a different kind of crazy.
It's not.
Well,
right.
And that was what Carpenter wanted, because he's in the script he's known as the Shape, and so it's just this form that happens to be here, and then you think you see something out of the corner of your eye and you look and he's gone. It's just that kind of thing. It's kind of a force of nature, and you don't know where he's going to be and what he's up to.
Yeah.
And why he's going obviously in the first film you don't know why he's going after Lori. It wasn't until the second one you find that out. But now with this new movie that's coming out that's serving as a direct sequel to the original, they're taking that story element out and in my opinion is putting back the scare. Because it's just there's no reason. He's killing. And that to me, that makes it more scary. You talk about with Jason. Well, first of all, they're either having sex or they're having drugs, but they're on his territory. They're at Camp Crystal Lake.
True.
You show up there, you're going to get killed.
Yeah, that is true. I forgot about that point. Well, until they sent him to New York and to hell.
And outer space. Forget about that.
Yeah.
Say what you will about Jason X. It was actually a fun movie.
Yeah. It was. It was.
It was terrible, but it was fun.
Well, most of them they're all terrible, actually, but...
right.
But fun to watch, yeah. Well, and I know a lot of people don't agree with my opinion, but I like the Rob Zombie versions that he came in with. He didn't try to change the story, but kind of fill in a few little gaps. And to me, I thought he told a really good story. I mean, just explaining how Michael grew up and, when he finally killed his sister, it was like, thank God, go Michael. I mean, he made you sympathize with the serial killer, which was kind of like, wow, I'm cheering on a serial killer right now to kill his sister. But I really liked that because it kind of answered the why was he like that, and kind of the gaps that I think that the originals intentionally left for you to make you wonder and keep you coming back.
The
you know.
mystery. They use Carpenter used mystery as part of it, as the just not knowing what the real story is, and it just it leaves the viewer to kind of fill that in his or her own head, which that gives that person the opportunity to scare themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that to me is that's the genius of it.
That
and,
is.
And that's a lot of the thing that we've lost in the last 30, 40 years of that is that nobody wants to think that much anymore.
No.
Right.
And they wouldn't be happy with the movie if they had to,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's what's left to the imagination that makes things more scary. I think that's why Blair Witch and some of the other ones did so well. Is what's out there in the dark. You hear a noise, you don't know what that is. So it allows the brain to kind of come up with the the worst possible thing. But
right. You're the best person to scare you is you.
That's right.
And that's the
Yeah.
deal. The person who knows you better than anybody knows what scares the piss out of you. And it's you.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something else about this film. We hadn't gone into yet. I remember reading this story regarding this film, and the story is that Carpenter had just finished editing the film and all that, and and one of the bigwigs sat and watched it, and came back to Carpenter and says, "This is not a scary movie. This is going to fail miserably, and this is not going to work." A few months later, it's out in theaters. And that same person went to Carpenter and go, "Oh my God, I don't know what you did, but that's a scary movie." And I can't believe it. Whatever you did, it worked. The only thing that had changed is he had not added the musical score.
That's what I say, yep.
It was the music.
But if you think about it, it does add so much to that movie.
Yes.
That's why when we were talking about it before show, the first thing that popped in my head was the song, You knew when that song happened, there was some crazy shit about to go down. You better hide or watch, But, yeah, I could see that.
The piece of music that's called Laurie's theme, it kind of goes back to what Mike was using the term slow burn. It's kind of the same thing. It's just the couple notes on the keyboard, and it kind of gives you like a little unease. But you don't know why.
Makes that hair stand up.
Yeah.
Right. It's the simplicity of it that makes it work so well, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I admit, I've not ever really been a fan of Carpenter's music. But man, does it work in this movie. It works like a dream in this movie.
Yeah, it does.
I can't think of another one where it worked as well, but
I don't think it has. And the fact that Carpenter's actually worked on the music for this one, has to be excited as well.
Yeah.
I just hope he knows why it worked the first time. I think there's a good chance he does.
I think so.
I also think he hasn't really managed to capture that lightning in another bottle yet, but that's okay.
Well, that's hard. I mean, when you start off with a bang, where do you go from there?
Yeah. I mean, it can be difficult to apply that same style to a different kind of movie.
Yeah.
And
but with the new trailer, it looks like he's going to capture some of that.
It's at least got some of the visuals down for sure.
Yeah.
It's got apparently the right ideas, at least from what we get in the trailers. Now,
Yeah.
that translates. Hopefully, that translates to the film itself, but you can't really know that until you see it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It seems like they went back and studied the original film, saw what worked, and said, okay, what can we do to not only recapture that, but maybe enhance it and go in a different way that way, so we're not rehashing the original film.
Yeah, we're not telling the same story again.
Yeah. And so far, from what we've seen, it looks like they did. So, but we're only talking,
30 seconds. Yeah.
We're talking about 3 or 4 minutes of probably a 90-minute film, 90-minute to 2 hours film. So but we'll see. But I do like what I've been seeing so far. It's definitely recaptured the scare just from those 2 trailers.
Right, the menace is there again.
Yeah.
And I think that got lost pretty early on.
Although I will have to say one bad thing, in all of the slasher movies, the one thing that always gets on my nerve is the probably 2 or 3 chicks they have in there who's just screaming and running and screaming, and then they fall, and it's like, please kill her so she will shut up. You knew the girl who was screaming was going to die. I don't know if they just walk into the audition and just scream, or on the 80s take their top off and scream.
Well, okay, see, and here you're going back to, whether you're intending to or not, you're going back to one of the things that Halloween blazed a trail for.
Yeah.
The original Scream Queen was Jamie Lee Curtis.
True.
From this movie. That's the deal, is they're trying to recapture that every single time. And it doesn't matter. The deal is, the thing that they don't realize is that how well they scream doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What you have to look at is why. Why are they screaming? What's making them scream? What's going on in there? And that most of the 80s and early 90s is peppered with terrible horror movies for that very reason, because they just don't get that.
No. Just have her scream and run.
Right. A girl screaming on the screen is all we need to make this a big hit. No, it's not. Not by a long shot. You have to care about the character. Again, you still have to go back to caring about the character. You have to have a character there that you like. And Laurie was likable. She was a good girl. She was a
good with kids.
Babysitter, right. A good one. She was a good friend.
Yep.
Why they don't... And that takes time in a movie to build. Which is why you have to have the slow burn. That's what makes it a slow burn, is because it's slow. Because you have to build the audience's interest in the character before you can put the character at risk and have the audience give a shit.
Yeah. Because if not, then you're just cheering them on to kill his sister.
If not, you're just looking for a body count.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And see, the deal with and I will admit, I have not seen the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, but the way you describe it, the deal is they took that slow burn and focused it on little Michael instead.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
the
so
first one
little
was
Michael is the one
completely
you care
Michael.
about. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up, because that's where your investment is for the first hour of that movie, or whatever it is. I don't even know. But that's where you're investing your time and your energy, and you're getting to know the character.
Yeah.
So he's the one
And
you
the
care
second
about.
one is the little janitor guy, which he was the first kill.
That's a different ball game right there. Then I don't know what the deal is with that then.
Yep. He was nice to him. But, yeah, and I guess not that you sit there and watch Halloween and go, I wonder why he's like this. He must have had child issues. You know, but the way that Rob Zombie told it, it was just like, wow, you know, if I had those parents, I'd probably be a Michael Myers too, you know. No, I probably wouldn't because I don't like blood, but yeah, something along those lines. But it did kind of answer the why. You know, what was wrong with him? You know, why didn't he talk? Why didn't he, you know? And it also explained more his emotional attachment he had to his sister, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a pretty good one. I just enjoy zombie films, though. He tells a good, scary story.
Not sure I've ever sat through one of them. Mostly because there are a lot of people who do not share your opinion. So I've really kind of never heard much good about them.
Yeah.
So there we go. Doesn't mean that they're right and you're wrong. It just means that's why I haven't sat down and watched them.
And two, I could be biased because, you know, I fell in love with White Zombie in my goth stage, so he was God.
Go figure, right.
Yeah.
He was the main, you know. So he could probably shit on a log and I'd be like, oh my God, it's so beautiful.
That's a nice image.
No,
You know,
not really.
it'd be a zombie thing to do, you know.
You say so.
But you know what I mean. He can do no wrong. And as much as I loved his music, I really enjoyed, you know, his movies as well. And he's given us a few characters like Captain Spaulding and stuff that just sticks with you, you know. If I was ever scared at night, he would be the one I would picture as out in the shadows. The clown.
The clown was named Captain Spaulding?
See, now I'm doubting that. It's been a while since I've watched that. I'll look it up and be sure.
Well, I know he didn't go around singing "Hello, I must be going."
Right.
And yes, it is Captain Spaulding.
Is it? Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
And he's
Makes
been
sense in a way, I think.
in a few of his movies. I think he was in Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses. And there was one other one that's not coming to my mind right now. I can't remember. But, you know, Rob Zombie to me kind of reminds me of, this is like way off topic, but, the comedian Adam Sandler? How he always uses the same actors for all of his movies. Yeah.
That's not unusual.
That's kind of, you know, Rob Zombie does too. And his wife, I think her name's Luna, is in almost every movie he makes. She was Michael Myers' mom. So that's kind of neat too, you know.
Well, oh God, what's his face?
Sherry Moon
Does
her
that
name.
too. Tim Burton, he does that all the time too.
Oh, there's
Yep.
several to do. I mean, even Carpenter does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think once you find the chemistry of people you can work with and
Mhm.
have your vision, you know, I would use him too. And like with Burton, a lot of what he comes up with, it's like, oh, I could see Johnny Depp playing that.
Uh-huh.
He's another one I grew up with. 21 Jump Street, all the way.
Okay.
So, what kind of do you have any expectations for the sequel? Or are you just going, hey, I just hope it's a good film and I'm there for the ride? And of course, I'm not asking Mike this because he's not going to go see it at the theaters. So I guess I'm asking you, Liz.
Hearing that he's backing up, sometimes I'm kind of when they mess with the timeline of something they've already set down. Star Wars. But,
well, this is not the only horror franchise that's done this. So.
Right. But I think in doing that, though, I think he'll tell a good story. So I guess I have high expectations for this one. And like I said, when Jamie Lee Curtis agreed to come back, it was kind of like, oh, I mean, it's going to be golden. She's Miss Horror Queen, you know?
I was pleased and impressed when I heard that she was back on, but I was floored when I saw that Carpenter was going to be actually more involved than just having his name attached to it. That he actually liked the script enough that he said, "I'll do the music," because he doesn't do that.
No, and you know what? At first he was happy with Zombie's version. And then he watched it, and I don't think he liked it. I think the problem he had with Zombie's version was they made Michael too human. And kind of like I was saying, you know, how you had sympathy for him. He's like, you should never sympathize with a serial killer. So he definitely had some problems. So I think if he's involved in this, it'll be a good story the way that he envisioned it to begin with, you know.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited about it. As I think I've already said, everything just looks great. It's recaptured. It seems like it's recaptured everything that was so successful about the original version. So whether or not that happens through the entire film or not, you know, well, we'll just have to wait. But based off of everything I've heard so far, I'm very pleased. So
now this is total rumor. I don't know this to be a fact or anything. But when Halloween first came out, wasn't his original ideal was to make several different movies that didn't really connect with each other? The
original idea was the first one was going to be Michael, and then after that it was just going to be just different stories. The only thing that really tied them together is they took place on Halloween.
Yeah.
Hence what we got with Halloween 3.
Now I'm going to sing that song. 10 more days to Halloween.
But the first film did so well that the studio wanted him to go do a sequel, and he didn't really want to do it. But all he did was just basically the music, and him and Deborah Hill wrote the script, and that's where they had to. Okay, I guess at this point we need to figure out why he's actually doing this, and you know,
yeah,
why is he going after this one person in particular, and so they felt they had to address that now.
Well, then they had the little girl who was Michael Myers, and they had I can see him, he's a blonde-headed kid on a farm, who they thought he was Michael Myers, and that's why I kind of liked the last one after those, because it kind of came back, and Michael was like, no, I'm Michael Myers. You may have been wearing my mask, but...
And speaking about talking about the other films, another story I had read a long time ago regarding the filming of the first film. There was a sequence where they were filming the inn after Loomis had shot Myers off the balcony, and he fell. And Donald Pleasance went to Carpenter and says, "Okay, well, how do you want me to do a reaction?" And am I supposed to be surprised, or am I supposed to go, okay, yeah, I knew this, but I was hoping against hope. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, they filmed both, but they were going to use the "I knew he was gone," and he's still out there. And supposedly, Pleasance asked why, and Carpenter said just to leave it open for a possible sequel. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, because I think it's something that we mentioned when we did our whole Carpenter appreciation run. Carpenter likes doing open endings.
Yeah.
So where not all the questions have been answered, there's something a little bit dangling, and it just kind of left you up in the air.
The villain's missing.
Well, again, there's the mystery of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's a mystery.
He could be anywhere.
And that's what happens, because after you see that, you start seeing you get these quick shots from all the other places he'd been that night, and you can hear the breathing through the mask. So it's like, okay, where is he? And then it goes black. And that's such a great ending, because he could be anywhere.
Or nowhere. None of the above.
Now, I have a stupid question for you guys. What is Michael and Jason? I mean, you kill them, and they keep coming back, so they can't be human. I mean, what are they? Are they zombies? Are they...
I think that depends on who you ask.
Really? Yep.
I mean,
Loomis
seems to have an opinion about what Michael Myers is.
Right.
And he expresses it repeatedly in the sequels. I don't know Jason as well.
Yeah.
I've only seen a couple of those movies all the way through.
He's kind of like Michael with the hockey mask, though.
Well, the thing with Jason is they never truly address it until the Jason Goes to Hell, and it's the whole thing that's this demon.
Yeah. This
demon thing, which, when I saw that originally, I was like, oh, okay. And about how he can be reborn and all that, I'm just okay. I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, y'all have done some weird shit with him through the other films. I can't really complain about this, so.
Yeah.
With Michael, the thing is if you go back, just go back to the first film, just what we see there, you don't know. He's obviously humanoid looking, but there's nothing there that goes, okay, he's not, other than the fact that he was shot 6 times, fell off a balcony, and then was able to get up and walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really only a second floor balcony too. So,
right. Yeah. So it wasn't a major fall, but he was also shot 6 times. You don't know exactly where he was shot.
Right.
You don't know how good of a shot
Right.
Loomis was.
Maybe Mr. Psychiatrist is a terrible shot. You never know.
Right. So it's all up in the air. Other than that, everything else is pretty much, there's nothing there that goes, okay, I can't see this happening. Other than he's strong enough to carry a tombstone by himself.
Yeah.
Able to pick up a person and pin them to a door. But outside of that, everything else is kind of pretty much any normal person could do.
Well, and he could walk really, really fast, very slowly.
Yeah, but again, you're talking about camera tricks, not necessarily supernatural influence.
Right.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen that robot chicken? Where I think it's Jason, and he's like chasing that girl, and you see her, of course, she keeps running, and he cuts off camera, and he gets on a bicycle, and he's like pedaling real fast.
Wow. No.
I think I have seen that.
So by the time she gets where he is, I think he like missed her once, so he had to go even faster. It was funny. But it does explain a lot.
I like Robot Chicken.
I do too.
Alrighty. Any final thoughts before we decide to wrap up and take a quick break?
No, just to those of you who have not seen the older Halloween, you really, really have to. I know I was surprised when my son, I failed as a parent, had told me that he hadn't seen it yet. And it was like, what? It's on every Halloween. And actually, I think starting this weekend, they're going to start playing that. I think I saw it on the TV Guide at least 5 or 6 times in the next 2 weeks. So,
wow.
So
you definitely have to
have opportunity to watch it.
Yeah.
Yep. And even though it's an 80s slasher movie, I think you'd be surprised if you haven't seen it.
Right. Try not to walk into it thinking about a slasher movie.
No. Not at all.
It is a very suspenseful movie, and it's got a lot of moments in it. But it's really not particularly gory, because it doesn't need to be.
No.
Is it the kind of movie for everybody? Probably not, but I think it's probably not as bad, horrible, scary, creepy as most people are afraid it will be.
Yeah.
It may have a bit of a reputation, and a lot of that, like I said, is probably deserved because it was a very early movie of that type.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, arguably the granddaddy of them all. But
it's not one of those bang bang body count kind of movies at all.
Right.
And it does have a plot and a story.
Absolutely.
Sometimes with Friday the 13th, you have to search for that story, but
and you never find it sometimes either.
No.
Like Jason X, like we were saying. But
But this one really, like I said, if you haven't seen it, you really do yourself a favor and you have to watch it.
Right.
Open mind.
It's a really good movie. I mean, I mean, whether you think of it as a slasher movie or not, it's a really good movie. Mm-hmm. It's a really good example of John Carpenter making a really good film.
Yep. Way ahead of its time.
Yes.
Yep. I agree with all that was just said. Definitely check it out. With that, we're going to take a quick break and come back with our weekly picks. And we're back, and it's time for our weekly picks, and Mike leads off.
I leads off. Okay. I'm leading off with an Image book. Yeah, no, big shock. I'm a little bummed about this. My first pick is Regression, number 11. And the reason I'm bummed is because the preview here says that this is the start of the final arc.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. And as much as I hate bugs, this book has been a lot of fun. But anyway, so the story. If you've been following this title, Adrian has, it appears, finally lost the struggle, essentially, to maintain control of his own body. Or has he? But yeah, this is the fun book because you've got like demon cults and past life regression and all kinds of just really fun, interesting stuff. So and this is only 11, so you go back. If you're interested, check out the first trade is awesome. The second trade is also awesome, but this is the start of the third and final arc, so this is as good a time to jump in as any.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. I'm up next. And for my first pick, I'm going with Titan Comics. And this is Doctor Who, the 13th Doctor, issue 0. And a little bit more of a setup for the upcoming new Doctor. And according to the synopsis, as the Doctor regenerates from the 12th to the 13th incarnation, she starts reliving memories from the different actually, this says it's going to be for every version of the Doctor. So that would be kind of cool to little read, kind of get you set up for the new Doctor that's going to be starting up, in October, if I'm not mistaken. And it's going to be on Sunday nights. They're moving it from Saturday to Sunday now. So
That's cool.
So I'm curious. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this new Doctor and with the new showrunner. So I will definitely be picking this up to kind of get me geared up.
Cool.
Yep, should be fun.
Mm-hmm. Liz.
All right. My first one is by Vault Comics. It's called Friendo. Starts out, it says, Leo wasn't allowed toys as a kid, but now he's grown up and he's going to take yours. So, Sci-Fi actually did a really cool write-up on this one and gave us a really good glimpse into it. Leo grows up pretty messed up, bad upbringing and everything else, and he's like a struggling actor now, and then he gets it's almost like Google Glass, but it's different because he starts off by answering 5 different questions, and based on those answers is who appears to him as his friend. So, which they say this is a mini issue, so it's 5 series, but by issue 5, they said his little friend will be much, much different than when he starts out with this little geeky guy. So, should be pretty interesting. We'll see if his life will change for him. Couldn't get much worse.
Yikes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of a technology gone wrong kind of tale.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I like things
Those are
like
always
that.
fun.
Yeah, like Black Mirror and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I thought of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, Sci-Fi's totally backing it, so it should be pretty good.
Sweet.
Alrighty. Mikey.
Okie dokie. My next pick is a Valiant book. And yay, Faith is coming back.
Woo!
So we're getting a new 4-issue mini-series with Faith, and it is called Dreamside. And not surprisingly, this is a story in which Faith is trying to help out a friend. And in this case, doing so, it probably looks like it involves the assistance of Dr. Mirage in traveling into her friend's dreamland world thing. So, should be interesting in that regard. I mean, just because who knows what she's getting herself into at this point, and
Oh yeah.
it could. It's always fun. Faith is a great character. I am glad that that Valiant has kind of brought her to the forefront the way they have, because she's kind of the superhero that every little kid should expect all superheroes to be.
She's definitely old school, and that's kind of refreshing. I'm not saying the other heroes out there are not. It's just they're a little bit more of a modern day take, where this one's definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, she's very relatable to kind of the comics audience in a way. She's kind of, as a character, she's got some fairly traditional powers, and she's kind of geeky on a personal side, and for a while there she kind of had the whole secret identity thing going on, which was hilarious. And yeah, it's a cool kind of modern throwback in a way.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Faith back, and it'd definitely be interesting to see where we go with this one.
Yep.
Okay, for my second choice, I'm going with Amigo Comics, and this is the first of a 5-issue miniseries called Phantasmagoria. And this is the thing that caught me about this one is it is a Victorian age story that deals with mass murder, haunting, cult of gentlemen, possessed dolls, and just a lot of other crazy stuff. And it sounds so bonkers that I gotta check it out and see what's going on. This is written by El Torres with art by Angel Hernandez, who I remember his work from the Green Lantern Star Trek crossover. So I'm excited about this one. This it just sounds so crazy that it might be fun.
That is definitely an interesting blend of stuff there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right, for my second one, it's from Scout Comics. It's another one of the creepy cute that I like. It's called Stabbity Ever After. I think I've recommended before Stabbity the Bunny, because he's a cute little Stabbity bunny. This one is, like I said, this is the first issue of this series. They say it takes place nowhere near the storyline that's going on right now with Stabbity Buddy. The preview of this kind of reminds me of I Hate Fairyland, because he's going to be fighting Fairyland inhabitants. Cute little fluffy Stabbity Bunny is. So like I said, they said there's no profanity, no sexual situations, but it still should be a pretty good title. So, like I said, if you wanted to read the other and you didn't get in on time and you're waiting to catch up, this one's just starting and it won't spoil the other storyline for you. So it should be pretty good.
Cool.
Nice.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn things a little darker now, though I don't really know how I could possibly turned darker than Stabby Bunny.
Hey, but that's cute dark.
It's cute dark. This is not cute dark. This is an image style. It is the collected trade of Infidel. And this was a pretty well touted series that very much lived up to the hype. It was a very good horror story about a young woman who, with her fiance and his daughter, move into an apartment building that was not that long ago the location of a pretty horrific, what was probably an accident sort of thing. And there's a lot of fun stuff going on there. There's a lot of cool. The characters in this thing are, again, back to what we were talking about with Halloween. Building the characters is important, and this book did that, and it was very good, very well written. So definitely, I mean, there's some gruesome stuff a little bit, but it's a very good book.
Yeah, I agree. And this has actually been optioned, so we may actually see a film version of this, which would be pretty cool.
That would be very cool. This would make a very cool movie.
I agree. I'm up next, and I am going with a collection from Marvel. This is a new printing of Avengers Forever, which was written by Kurt Busiek and with art by Carlos Pacheco. God, I love this when this came out. But it's been about 25 years ago when this came out. It was a 12-issue miniseries. And the thing that was so interesting about it, because it literally addressed things throughout the history of the Avengers. There was a team that's put together from different time periods that has to deal with Immortus, and actually King the Conqueror gets involved as well. Which, if you're our Marvel file, you know that King is a younger version of Immortus, so we're dealing with that time paradox as well. And yes, this is not going to be up Mike's alley because he doesn't like time travel and all this, but it's such a great. It's almost. I don't really want to say a love letter to the Avengers history, but there's just, if you read a ton of Avengers stuff, especially the older stuff, you'll see reference going, oh, I remember this, I remember that, and it's so cool when I read it. And I'm glad that there's a new printing coming out, and for new readers to get a chance to check this out. And the scuttlebutt at one time is that some elements of this was going to actually be possibly in the next Avengers film, and which is it's still possible, because it does seem kind of interesting that now's the time that they put out new printing, but that, who knows, But I highly recommend it, especially if you're an Avengers fan and you have not had the opportunity to read this. Here's your chance. I'd definitely pick it up.
Sounds good.
Fun.
Liz, you're next.
All right. This one's actually a twofer. This week, but not when you guys are hearing the week that we're recording, Batman Damned comes out. It's the first comic coming out of DC's Black Label, which will be their more mature stories, kind of edgy, standalone stories. The first collected work is going to be The White Knight. So if you read The White Knight, that's kind of what this is going to be for, is those kind of more more grown-up stories. I hate to say grown-up, not like the other ones are funny kiddie books, but yeah. But a little bit more darker on their label, hence the black label. But should be pretty good. Batman Damned. The Joker's dead, and Batman cannot remember if he killed him or not. He's like totally blacked the whole thing out. So he's going to have to put the pieces together. But so he can't remember that he's dead. So who do you get when you want to speak to the dead on the other side? He's going to be teaming up with John Constantine. Pretty good pairing. I'm dying to see how these egos are going to play against each other.
Dying.
But so like I said, that one comes out the week that you're hearing, or it should already be in the stores when you hear our podcast. The one coming out for this week is actually from IDW and DC, but it's Batman the Max, Arkham Dreams. The Max is locked up at Arkham Asylum. And those of you who aren't familiar with Max, he kind of sees a psychedelic reality compared to the reality that we see. You know? So him and Batman are going to team up together, and he's going to have to save Gotham. I'm not for sure who this devious new doctor is they're talking about in Arkham Asylum. So I'm real excited to find out a little bit more about him. But definitely, once again, talk about egos being together. I think is a good month for Batman. He's making a lot of friends. Maybe Catwoman leaving him wasn't so bad after all. So,
ooh, is that too soon? I don't know.
Well, they say after a divorce or a breakup, go out, meet new friends. He's making new friends. But I think the Max, it's definitely going to be a trippy ride for sure.
I would agree with that.
I bet so, yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Scarecrow in a way. Because they're talking about getting into the minds of his enemies and, kind of the way Scarecrow did. Made you see an alternate reality of what was really happening. So, definitely good pairing. We've already seen it works.
Yep.
Okay. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
No, I kind of front-loaded mine, so.
Yeah. Just once again, if you can, we'll have to help out those who are hurting right now because of Hurricane Florence. So,
and what was his name again, Mikey?
Doug.
Doug.
Yeah, from the Who's Right podcast. Like I said, I'll link it.
Right. Okay. With that, we'll go to our regular shout-outs. First off, we will thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music for our podcast. We'll definitely have a link in our show notes for you to peruse their music. Thank you guys very much. I also want to thank the fine folks that make up Pattern Family on Twitter for help spreading the word of the fellowship. You should definitely go check out some of their shows, and the best way to find them is to go to Twitter and do a search, #PatternFamily, and just knock yourselves out. You find something that catches your eye, download it and check it out, and I'm sure you'll have a blast. Thank you guys for your support. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. We would love to hear from you. If you have a comment, question, suggestion, complaint, observation, what have you, please contact us. There are several ways you can do that. You can go to the website and click on the About Us tab. There's a form there that you can fill out. or just email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and we'll obviously get that. Feel free to follow us on social media. The Fellowship of the Geeks on Facebook, and on Twitter, we're at Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, feel free. Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at Newman_L. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And wherever you download and listen to our episodes, whether it's through iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, or YouTube, it would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review us. Any final thoughts?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you once again for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,